Hello, hello. Welcome to Odds on Serie A. It's match day 25. Another weekend has gone with Napoli getting one step closer to win the Scudetto.
Yes.
18 points clear at the top, Danny. 21 wins in 24 games. Only one defeat so far. Danny, how are you first?
All good, Leo. Very well. So now we got, obviously, this is the weekend before the Champions League restart.
Yeah.
Napoli obviously will play on Friday, first game against Lazio before playing against Eintracht Frankfurt. 4 teams also in the Europe, between Europa League and the Conference League. So obviously it's a good moment for Italian football, but now comes the big stuff, the real stuff, and they need to be prepared.
Absolutely. So I believe, or I guess maybe some people have started to organize already the parade in Naples. Maybe
The flags already.
But anyway, well, before we get started, please do not forget to like and subscribe to our channel and hit the notifications bell. Now, let's go. You mentioned, Danny, our first stop is going to be Napoli-Lazio. What a way to start match day 25 in the Diego Armando Maradona, the visit of Lazio. Do you think could be a little bit tricky against Napoli, although they are, of course, on 8 consecutive league wins and everything seems so good for Spalletti's team?
It is a game that I think it will be fascinating because Spalletti against Sarri, 2 of the best managers in Italy, and probably 2 of the teams that when they play the best football are the best one to watch in Italy. Now the difference is Napoli has done this consistently through the season, and Lazio have been a little bit inconsistent. But for me, these are the 2 teams that, especially going forward, and in terms also the way they are balanced, they are the best in Italy. Now, Lazio squad sometimes is not deep enough to allow Sarri to always get the best out of the players. But lately, I think they got some decent results. And even the 1-0 win against Sampdoria is a little bit deceptive. They had good quality and good chances there. What can we say about Napoli? Basically, they win by default. Nowadays, you don't watch the game to know whether they win or not. You just watch the game to see how they score. And when they don't score, they terrorize the defenses so much that the opposition score for them, as Empoli did. You know, Napoli were very good against Empoli, could have scored a couple in the 2 or 3 in the first half. Then in the second half, even down with 10 men for the sending off of Mario Rui, they kept going. Empoli didn't have many chances. So again, it's another step closer to the deserved third Scudetto in the story. Only conceded 3 goals, Napoli, in the last 9 games. Only dropped 2 points at home with the 1-1 against Lecce at the beginning of the season. So that tells you how balanced they are, how well they defend. They defend by keeping the ball, by not showing you any gaps, really. But Lazio, not to be underestimated, 4th in the weight table in Serie A. The last 3 games between Spalletti and Sarri have all been over 2.5 goals. Last season, actually, Napoli won 4-0 against Lazio at home. It was a very good display. A little bit of a curiosity here. Napoli have had 48 hours rest more than Lazio. They played on Saturday. Lazio played on Monday evening. So, it's a little bit unfair maybe there for the traveling side. Over 2.5 goals here. I can see goals from both sides, over 2.5, that pays 2.
So you see goals even despite that Lazio as well has, after Napoli, I believe the best defense. They conceded the least after Napoli.
That's right, but I think in these sort of games and considering how well they are going forward and now the managers are going to set it up, I think they're going to create chances. I think they're going to score. The reverse fixture was one at the Olimpico. There was a late goal from Napoli, but there were plenty of chances. And I think, I don't think this is going to be a cagey one for sure. So, I'll stick with over 2.5 goals.
Perfect. Over 2.5 there for Danny. Napoli against Lazio. On to the next one, Monza. At home with Empoli. They're having similar trajectories, Danny, this season. Monza 29 points, Empoli on 28. They both lost on the weekend. We mentioned before Empoli's defeat with Napoli, and Monza got crushed 3-0 by Salernitana. The visitors actually haven't won any of the last 5 league games, and Monza haven't won any of the last 5 home matches. Are we heading for a draw here?
It could be, because it is a point that will be good for both, and I think they're going to be saved at the end of the season. Monza, of course, newly promoted, but they bought a lot of experienced players, which are delivering after all. And the issue with Monza is that lately, against Salernitana, also against Milan 2 weeks ago, they're not creating a lot of chances. Maybe the excuse is that at Salerno, they were missing a lot of key players, the likes of Rovella, for example, which has been very important in midfield. So they're not being really quick out of the mark. But it was a strange one, really, for them to lose so heavily 3-0. And Empoli, curiously, if we will only take into account the expected goals and the expected goals against, they would be 5th from bottom. According to the stats, they should have conceded 12 more goals, but they have a great goalkeeper, which is Vicario, which I think next season you're going to see in a top team, either in Italy or abroad, which has saved them a lot. But, it is a side that is not really set up for defending Empoli. They're not really good at, just keeping it tight, keeping the clean sheet. They like to have the ball. Sometimes they make some mistakes. So they're young, a little bit naive. Both sides, they conceded 12 in the last 9. So, you could go for an over 2.5, an over 2 goals, for example. But I think now Monza are due a win here. But I'm going to be cautious. I'm going to go for a nation handicap minus 0.25 Monza, which pays 183. That means if they draw, you only lose alpha stake. If they win, you win 183.
Perfect. So that's Monza, Empoli, and also maybe on the cautious side, if someone thinking of a draw, at least a draw at halftime. Draw halftime has odds of 2.23 as well. Not bad. Now we move on to our next stop, Danny, which is Atalanta Udinese in Bergamo. I promise you, Danny, I won't throw you any sandwich at you, like the Milan fans have done with Gianpiero Gasperini after the 2-0 defeat in the weekend. But jokes aside, Danny, Atalanta is suffering an alarming dip in form. I don't know if it's alarming, but they tumbled out of the Coppa Italia in the quarterfinal, 6 in the Serie A, 4 points adrift of the top 4.
Difficult, it's played.
Yes, but Udinese is having a comfortable mid-table season so far, I would say. But at the same time, just 1 win in the last 6. In the weekend, they couldn't take more than a draw against relegation candidate Spezia. Will you think of a double chance here for Udinese because of what we're talking about Atalanta maybe not in the best form so far?
That's what the value is, Leo, because obviously Atalanta, they've 3 in the last 4. They already lost 4 games at home so far. They've conceded 15 goals at home. And historically, their home form has never been that very good. That will let them down through the years, even when they were challenging for the Scudetto. Against Milan, they were really disappointing. They didn't have no dangerous shots on goal. Expected goals, 0.10. Mike Maignan was back in goal, hardly touched the ball, really. But you see, I don't understand with Atalanta what's happening. I thought at the beginning of the year, they found the right structure with Højlund and Lukman and Boga playing in behind. Then out of a sudden, Gasperini started tinkering again. He's playing with Ederson in midfield, which is not doing the same job as Boga. Sometimes he's leaving one of the 2 strikers out. And I think all these changes in formation have unsettled the side a little bit. But also what I think is that with Juventus going down to minus 15, out of a sudden, Atalanta are in with a shot to go for the Champions League. But going back into the Champions League this season has never been their objective. And I wonder whether this has changed the plan a little bit, too much pressure. The way they were eliminated by the Coppa Italia was criminal, really, with too many changes against Inter. Yeah, and I think they should have targeted that instead of the 4th place. But this is a tricky one also because Udinese have only won 1 game since October, that late win at Sampdoria in the last minutes. And against Spezia, they conceded 2 goals in such a silly way. One from a corner that they took, and then they were hit on the counter. So Till was obviously very, very upset. Since they're missing Deulofeu, which they're not going to have for at least a couple of weeks, they really, they do struggle. They do create chances, but, I don't know, it's just the balance is not right. Look, I think Atalanta might win this one, to be fair. But I think the value in the double chance that you highlighted is quite good. But I'm going to go for an Asian handicap at 0.5 for Udinese in the second half. So there's a double chance for Udinese in the second half, which pays 185. Doesn't mean Udinese are going to take points. They might just lose the first half and then draw the second. But I can't fully trust Atalanta home. So I'm going to go Udinese Asian handicap plus 0.5 in the second half, 185.
Perfect. That's the choice from Danny for that fix. So now the next one we have is Fiorentina Milan. Just to make it a little bit solid, but I'm gonna make it short. Every time Danny, Fiorentina Milan are playing, for me, it's like a trip to my teenagehood. You know, I'm waiting for Batigol, Rui Costa, Dejan Savicevic, Zvonimir Boban. I know we don't have that quality around now, but still a great fixture for sure.
It is.
Danny, Milan is still thinking, no, about their disastrous start of the year when they dropped 13 points in five games. It's a shame when you look at now the situation. They have won their last in a row, including, of course, the Champions League win against Tottenham in San Siro, but they haven't scored in 4 of their 12 away games. So I find it difficult to imagine a repeat of the goal feast we had last season when Fiore won 4-3 at home. Maybe I'm liking here odds on Asian Handicap 0 for Fiorentina, which are around averaging 2. But what's your take here?
It's exactly the same, actually. Fiorentina Asian Handicap 0, 214. This is a tricky one also because Milan are playing for a crucial game, which is the game against Spurs, the return leg. Of course, Fiorentina are going to play in the Conference League against Sivasspor, but that's the first leg. You know, it's a bit different, really, in terms of pressure. Milan, look, 4 consecutive win 2-0. We said it before. Atalanta had no dangerous shots on target. They have reverted a little bit to the basics, but at the same time, with the back 3, with Malik Chow, with Tomori and Kalulu being in good form, but also they managed to push Theo Hernandez a little bit higher at the pitch, sometimes even in some middle position. Look at the goal he scored. He's almost in a midfield position there. And playing, of course, with Messias as a right wing back instead of Calabria gives them something else. I think they have found more inspiration, more spark. It took them actually not a lot of time to get used to the back 3 system, to credit to Pioli. But again, I don't think it's quite enough for Milan to continue like this. I think they will find against better opposition, against sturdier opposition, that is going to be difficult. So for the game against Spurs, I can't imagine just them sitting back and just defend. It's not going to be enough. For this one, though, Pioli is going to make rotations. I think the Catellere is going to start, the biggest flop so far of the Italian campaign. I think there is a player obviously there, but something is not working. Fiorentina, the numbers, the offensive numbers are really good. They are second for shot in Serie A, first for corners taken, a lot of offensive phases created. They only collected 9 points in the last 9, but you always got the sense they're just inches away for things turning and clicking. Looking at how well they played in the Conference League against Braga, they scored 7 against them. Braga is not an easy team to score against, but the home's form, Fiorentina so far, has been disappointing. Goal difference -2 at Franchi. Last year they were much better. I think they finished in the table 3rd in the home league, in the home table last season.
Yeah.
But I think in this one, I sense there could be an upset here, or at least Fiorentina not to lose this one. Only 1 draw in the last 10 games between them, so the draw could be a good option. Fiorentina has an handicap 0, 214. If it's a draw, no problem, you get your money back.
Right.
If Milan wins, you lose. If Fiorentina win this game, 214.
Perfect. And now it's time for a relegation battle fixture. Danny, we move on to Spezia receiving the visits of Verona. Home team is on 20 points. 3 points ahead of Verona, who is standing in Serie B places with 17. There are good news for Spezia because it looks like, although in a freaky kind of way, as you mentioned with the game of Udinese, they got back the Angolan Nzola. Yeah, I mentioned it right. Who is back from injury. He scored a brace, 11 goals this season. Not bad, Danny there. The parity here for the bookies is absolute. Odds of 2.89 each way for the win. When this happens, I tend to believe in a draw, which has also 3.28. What's your take here?
The draw will not be a terrible result for neither of them. Yeah. Now, obviously, Verona, if they lose this one, they go 6 points behind Spezia. And basically, they squander all the good things they've done since Bocchetti took charge. until a couple of weeks ago, Verona were on the up and Spezia were going on down, and Verona had recovered around 6 points since the restart. But now things have changed a little bit. Verona goals have dried up a bit. I think at Fiorentina, they were also a little bit unlucky, could have scored. Then they conceded some stupid freakish goal as well. Away, Verona are very disappointing. Only 6 goals scored in their travel, but as I said, they cannot lose this one. And Spezia is interesting because a couple of weeks ago they sacked Gotti. They hired now Maurizio Semplici, used to manage Spal, and he's a completely different manager from Gotti. Plays a different system, plays with 4 at the back, likes to play with 2 up top and a number 10 behind them. So they become a little bit more attacking. And I think there's an interesting trend, similar to what Salernitana has done, sacking the manager and going for a manager that plays a completely different style of football, more attacking, more expansive like Paulo Sousa. It's a gamble because you need to get saved, but instead of relying on your defensive solidity, you go for something different. You know, Salernitana and Spezia, they haven't got the greatest defense in Serie A. So basically what they're trying to say is we're going to get saved by outscoring our opposition, by scoring one more than you. It's very, very risky. I remember Benevento did it a couple of years ago with Inzaghi. Didn't end up very, very well, apart from the start of the season. Look, only 1 win since the restart for Spezia, by the way. Yeah. But here they're going to play with Zola up front. We're going to play with Agudelo behind him and with Shomurov next to him. So, you know, they're going to be attacking. Will they be too attacking? Will they go perhaps too much out of the way? Another Asian handicap 0 for me, this one. Verona, in this case, Asian handicap 0. I think they are a stronger side than Spezia, everything considered. 195. If they draw, no problem. You get the money back, put them the money for another bet, or just don't bet if you want. 0 if you win, 195.
Perfect. And to be honest, Danny, I don't think I will rush home on Sunday to watch our next fixture, which is Sampdoria Salernitana. Not at all. Sampdoria heading to Serie B, bottom of the table, 2 wins only so far. The last one 2 months ago. Salernitana is not having a picnic neither. They are sitting 7 points ahead of relegation places, traveling at the back of 3-0 win against Monza. The trouble I have with Salernitana, Danny, is that they seem that they don't know how to draw. They either win, not too often anyway, only 6 wins, or lose 12 times. It's true that they drew 6 times in the season, but 4 of them were between August and the beginning of September, so a long time ago. If there is a draw coming the way of this fixture, it has to be 0-0 because Sampdoria has scored only just 11 times in Serie A. But can you explain me, if you can, why Sampdoria is favorite here for the bookies then?
I think because of the pedigree of the team, because of the name, and because they play at home. Although they haven't won at Marassi this season, and they only scored 1 goal at Marassi since September. So I really don't understand why they are so favorite. The reverse fixture, Salernitana won 4-0. That's when Salernitana were flying. Now, yes, the point you make about the draws is true, because I think Salernitana have got an issue with, as soon as they go behind in games, they kind of let it go. They cannot recover themselves. So they are good until it's 0-0, or obviously when they take the lead. But when they go behind, they do struggle an awful lot to get back into the game. Against Monza, 3-0, I think, is very generous for Salernitana. All the goals came in the second half. They took the chances very well. It is a side that, yes, with Paulo Sousa is going to play more attacking football, but let's not forget that this is the second team for number of saves made by their goalkeepers. Ochoa has been outstanding. Sepp has made a few saves, but you know, this is a team that spends most of the time defending their own box rather than attacking. So it is interesting to see how they set up at Genoa. Sampdoria, they need to win. I mean, if they don't win this one, it's Serie B for sure. The bottom of the table, only 5 points collecting the last 9. And it's just, I mean, they are a bit unlucky as well. They lost a few points on the way. Last minutes they should have lost against Lazio. You know, they defended, and obviously Luis Alberto scored a great goal. But it's really looked desperate for Sampdoria. Both to score here, 194. Sampdoria must go for it. I don't trust them to keep a clean sheet though. Both to score, 194.
Perfect. Those are the tips then for Sampdoria Salernitana. Now we have next in line Inter Milan against Lecce. I cannot seem I don't know what to decide, what to think about Inter, Dani. They are the team who beat Napoli at the start of this year and Porto last week, or the one that lost timidly to Bologna at the weekend. I don't know if they have nightmares traveling to Bologna because of what happened at the end of last season, possibly. But again, another game below par for Inters. I believe the focus now should shift of not making a mess with the Champions League qualification spot, because everything is quite tight there. They are level with Milan, but just 3 points ahead of the fifth. The odds for an Inter win very low here, 1.36. At home, played 12 and won 10. So the task for Lecce, of course, is huge. I don't know if you will be looking halftime, full-time market, maybe with Inter coming on top on both. We have higher odds than Inter outright win. Full-time, halftime, full-time market odds closer to 2. But what are your thoughts in here?
Inter this season have lost as many games, 7, as they did with Conte in the 2 previous seasons. That tells you a lot.
A lot, yeah.
It is a side that struggled massively in small games or against small oppositions. And I don't buy into the idea, the manager cannot motivate the players. They shouldn't be motivated, you know. When me and you go to work, are we motivated? Is the manager motivated? We just do it. They shouldn't have someone just shouting on their ears all the time like a sergeant. The problem is that probably some of the Inter players, when Inzaghi start making changes, I don't think they are up to the level of the 11 starters. They had some issues with injuries. I think players like Lukaku, Brozovic, they are not still in top form. And when Inzaghi leaves players out like Barella, like he did in Bologna, for example, I think you can tell that the replacement have not been quite there. So I think there is a problem with quality as well in the Inter side. And the fact that, they do turn up only for the big games, but, it's not good enough. Obviously, the club have had a word with Inzaghi again this week. They said we need to be better. We got less points than compared to last season. Seeing how strong is the Inter squad in terms of depth, at least for Serie A standards, they should be much closer to Napoli than what they are. And some of the players are underperforming for sure. But I think at home, Inter, they will get the kick on the backside. They will be motivated. They know they need to be up for it. And that's what they've done all season. So despite not being scintillating, not being brilliant recently, I trust them to go and get 3 points against a Lecce side, which, by the way, is always dangerous against big teams. He scored against many big teams because he won twice against Atalanta, won against Lazio, scored against Roma away, score against Milan, drew 2-2. So they always seem to score against top teams, not because they are extremely attacking, although they play with 4-3, but because they're very good on the counter. So when big teams leave gaps, they just go for it and they are effective. Inter really suffered in the first game of the season. They won only 2-1 back in August. Against Sassuolo, Lecce didn't create much in the end. I think that the defeat was deserved. Look, there are 2 odds that I like. There is the Asian handicap plus 1.5 for Lecce, which is good. I think it pays around 190. That means if Inter wins by 1 goal margin, win. If they draw, you win. And if Lecce wins, you win. But I'm going to go for what you suggested at the beginning. Half-time, full-time Inter, too. There is a lot of pressure for Inter to get the 3 points here. They don't have the midweek game in the Champions League. They play in 10 days' time. So they should be fired up, really. And you look at maybe players like Lautaro, like Dzeko, who hasn't scored in ages, to go on the score sheet. But I'm going to go for half-time, full-time Inter. That pays too.
And Dani, if I said Inter played very timidly against Bologna on the weekend, what to say about Roma? Because our next fixture is huge. Roma Juventus in the capital. Roma already knocked out of the Coppa Italia against Cremonese. Last night, again, Cremonese now away. Cremonese winning the first game of the season. What to say about this Roma? Again, don't know what to take out of from this team. The only positive note I will believe is Gini Wijnaldum. First start for the club after fracturing his tibia in August. All this at the back of a very good Europa League playoff win against Salzburg. I know they had the chances. They pushed at the end. Dybala could have scored, but I don't know. I can't see, as the book is putting Roma being the favorite here with the resurgent Juventus,
No.
who won 7 matches in all competitions, 6 out of the last 7 in all competitions for Juve, winning last night the derby against Torino for 2, coming from behind. That's why a Juventus win here, Danny, at 3.15 is something I really like, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a great odds, and I think they are proportionate considering the strength of the two sides. Who's got a better squad, Roma or Juve? Juve. Who's got the better players? Juve. Who won there last year? Juve. I don't see why Juve are so these favorites. Let's talk with Roma. Things didn't go well from the start at Cremona, and they start getting nervous. They got more nervous and more nervous. They knew they were going to have the ball. They didn't click. And then in the end, it exploded with Mourinho being sent off, saying things at the end of the game, saying he's gonna speak to his lawyer because the fourth official spoke badly about him. He's gonna miss the game, of course, against Juventus. I think some players, they were just not up for it against Cremonese. Maybe they thought it was gonna be much easier. Look, Roma has been struggling to create chances all season, and it was only thanks to Dybala coming back from the injury after the World Cup that they started scoring more goals. Before, they look a little bit hopeless while Dybala wasn't there, to be fair. Now, the good news is that Wijnaldum is back. Spinazzola scored, and he's been in good form recently. Scored, assisted 2 and scored 1 in the last 3 games. But, with Roma is... it is strange. I think it's a side that is well drilled, well coached. They score a lot of goals from set pieces, but from open play against teams that are organized, they do struggle. Okay, they hit the post on the bar 13 times in Serie A. That's the highest for the Serie A tally. So according to the expected goal, they should have scored 12 more goals. But it's about really managing the emotions as well. So it's gonna be a difficult one for Roma. They cannot lose this one, really. Juventus, considering the minus 15 points deduction, these games is not as quite important as it is for Roma, but they're showing good signs. Great reaction in the derby. They went behind twice. They scored good goals. They were very physical. They're very present in the Torino box. And since the restart after the World Cup, they're only 5 points behind Napoli, score 16 in the last 9 games. So they're the second best attack. And now if you look at the options, Chiesa is back. Pogba played his first game for Juventus this season. Allegri's got more options. Only Milik who is out. Some of the old guards are back as well and delivering. Quadrado score again. Kostic is having a good season. He's already 8 assists for the Serbian. There are the young players playing as well for Allegri, who's giving them more minutes as well. I still don't believe the Juventus backline is as good as the numbers show. Only 3 clean sheets in the last 6. I think it's a question of opposition sometimes do not taking the chances. I think this is going to be a goal game. And I know Roma's won a lot of 1-0 games, but I don't think they're going to win. If they win this one, they're not going to win this one 1-0. Over 2.25 goals, 2-4.
And on that line, both teams to score 2.1. as well for this Roma Juve. The one before the last we have done is Sassuolo at home with Cremonese. Well, we mentioned a little bit with Roma about Cremonese, but the scenes I was watching last night were amazing. The first win of the season, celebrations were incredible. I don't know how much that they're going to build on that, but it was a night to remember for all their supporters, that for sure. It's incredible that they managed to beat Roma and Napoli in the Coppa Italia, because we said Napoli, but also Napoli, not just Roma in the Coppa Italia. The reverse fixture finished 0-0. I'm not saying I'm seeing something similar again, because a draw that's not going to help anyone's cause here. But at the same time, I cannot see goals putting down in this Sassuolo Cremonese.
The thing with Cremonese, the nice thing is that they go for it. They are more solid. They play with 5 at the back under Ballardini, but they also try things, and sometimes Ballardini make attacking changes. They haven't won any away games so far this season. I think they're still going to go down, but they might go down with a bang. They got a Coppa Italia semi-final against Fiorentina to play and to look forward. You know, playing against a team that's got nothing to lose could be really dangerous. For Sassuolo, better things. Recently, they won 3 out of the last 9. They conceded 13, so still quite some problems at the back, despite keeping a clean sheet against Lecce. But Lecce should have scored in the last few minutes with Strefezza. Only 2 clean sheets in the last 9 for Sassuolo. The good news is that Lauriente is back, although his replacement by Rami has been good. With Lauriente, with Berardi, I think Sassuolo are going to edge it. I'm going to win this one. 187, the odds are really good, really a home win.
Perfect. And now, so then we can move on to our last fixture on this match day 25. We have Torino against Bologna, another mid-table encounter. Torino twice in the advantage last night against Juve, but couldn't hold it. Bologna is in a good run, 4 wins, 1 draw, and 1 loss in the last 6, and 4 points ahead actually of Torino in the table. After beating Inter in the weekend, should they feel confident of doing the same in Turin?
They should, because they are a serious side, you know, and I think Thiago Motta transformed them from a inconsistent side into a team that's got a proper structure, proper way of playing. They press high, they are aggressive, and you know, after the restart, after the World Cup, they will be 5th in Serie A, just 1 point behind Inter, who they beat. They won 5 of the last 7, and I think also with Bologna, they are becoming more mature. They're becoming better at managing tight margins and games. In the last 3 wins, in the last 3 games they won, they always scored in the last 20 minutes to score the decisive goal. And I think that's really, really important for a side that is young as well, but, you know, becoming much more experienced and mature. Torino, maybe the opposite. They do struggle to control games. You know, the games are often very frantic, a lot of coming and going. They struggle to put a foot on the game and control it, maybe for a spell of 15, 20 minutes. They do play some good stuff, though, Torino. Look at the goals they score against Juventus. The second one from Sanabria is a great goal, a great pass from Ilic. I think this is a good signing, again, from they got it from Verona in January. Only 10 points in the last 9 for Torino, a side that has never scored more than 2 goals this season. So again, in order to win it, they need to keep it tight, because otherwise they are in trouble. 10 goals in total at home, 3rd worst attack when they play at home. So maybe Bologna might have a chance. I'm going to go for a conservative one. That's a Monday night game, by the way. Over 2 goals, 185. If there are only 2 goals in the game, you get your money back. More than 2 goals, you win, 185.
Perfect. So those were all tips and predictions for match day 25 in Serie A with the one and only Daniele Fisichella. But before we say goodbye, you know the drill, Danny. It's time for your safe bet and your ACCA.
The best bet for me this weekend is Roma Juventus over 1.5 goals. So at least 2 goals at the Olimpico, 153.
That's nice. And what about your ACCA?
For selections, Napoli Lazio over 1.5 goals, Fiorentina Milan over 1.5 goals, Inter to beat Lecce, and Sassuolo Cremonese over 1.5 goals. Be repetitive if you like, but the total odds are quite nice. 336. And by the way, last week I got the ACCA right, so let's try to make it 2 in a row.
Lovely. 346. Good money to be made for sure. That's great, Danny. I hope you guys enjoyed the show, and do not forget, as always, to like, subscribe, and hit the notifications bell. See you next week, Danny. A pleasure as always. Bye-bye. Ciao.